Hi there, hi there, hi there. Jester here and Lunchbox. Another week of one more Rewrite podcast. We're going to be talking a little bit today about, well, a whole lot of things. First, we want to talk about some recent reboot announcements that come up both in the past couple weeks and the past couple of months. I want to hit on Ducktales, Danger Mouse, and coming sometime, I think, sometime between now and May, is a Daredevil reboot. But, or not reboot, but Daredevil series, I should say, on Netflix. But first off, let's talk about Ducktales being rebooted. What are your thoughts on that? It's not coming out this year, it's next year. But they announced it, which gives me some hope that since it's not coming out till next year. But go ahead.
Well, sure. There's plenty of, I think that, I mean, we've got decades worth of source material there.
From Carl Barks and all the
yes, I mean, all the way back. I mean, you know, they could do so much with that. That I think that DuckTales, I think, is a fairly easy one to reboot. Something that you can do, and kind of, I think just because we've got decades of it, it kind of seems timeless. You know, like you can just keep going with it and keep, and there isn't really, I guess it kind of seems like it's set in the 50s, maybe just because he wears spats.
Yeah. Well, but it's that, and it's got the whole. It's got a feel where there's some technology, but not too much. Where every technological innovation is something that you would have seen as something that they thought would be innovative in the 50s, but they're actually doing it. Like you've got Gyro Gearloose building like a time tub, or like some awesome communication device that's basically a cell phone. But, I don't know, do you think it'll go over well, or do you think it'll be just a total reaming and destruction, more childhood destruction, and I guess you would say in progress?
Well, I think that out of all of the new reboots and versions of things, I think that probably a DuckTales series has the most promise, just because it is set outside of time. So it's in kind of this alternate world.
Yeah, I can see that.
You know, so it doesn't have to be, have to stay current in any way. It doesn't have any like current references. You know, you kind of, it's set in its own place. So I kind of think that that's.
I'm nodding here, sorry.
It'd still work in that way, you know?
Yeah, no, okay. No, that's something I hadn't thought about before. Yeah, it is a bit timeless and something that it's not so much of a turnoff as just like or problem getting into it, but like the newer like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle series that have come along, I still have a heart for the voice acting and the animation style of the original like 80s 90s cartoon, and I grant that's probably a bit of nostalgia, but I also feel to a degree it has its own timelessness. Yes, there are some moments that are definitely dated date the cartoon, but it doesn't have, I don't know. I've seen bits and pieces of the newer ones that have come along, and there always seems to be this infusion of what's hip now, and I almost feel like that ruins any potential for it.
That they'll try and modernize it?
They'll try to modernize it. Try to modernize it, and it just makes it, I don't know. Modernizing it makes it inaccessible to me. I'm just hoping that also with DuckTales, they don't do something I've also seen with cartoons recently, which is they have, I don't know how else to say it. I know it's a cartoon, but they have too much focus on the kids.
Yeah.
And I heard some of
Huey, Dewey, and Louie. I mean,
Huey, Dewey, and Louie makes sense. But how do I say this? I heard somebody else, another podcaster, talking about this, and it made a lot of sense to me. But when we were kids, the cartoons didn't always center on the kids themselves. Yes, you had Penny helping out Inspector Gadget, but there was also a large portion of time to what Inspector Gadget was doing, or Thundercats. They weren't like Thunder Kids running around and having problems with those pesky old adults, and they weren't, I don't know, the Voltron team was teens, I believe.
Yeah, I think so. It's
He-Man,
been ages.
That he wasn't he-teen, he-kid. That would be interesting. But yeah, it seems like a lot of kids shows have so many kids centricism that there's no like adult guiding figure, and granted Scrooge McDuck isn't exactly a beacon of noble light. You've got people like him and Launchpad McQuack that are goof ups, but I don't know how else to say it. It's nice to see a cartoon with adult figures in the room, and I don't know.
Even if they're not always the best role models.
Even if they're not always the best role models, because I feel like too many cartoons these days, just like some of them I can get into, and other ones they try too hard to be vibrant and boppy, and I don't know. I almost want to say relevant. Ooh, we've got to talk to issues of the day. It's like, no, you don't. Make it a fun adventure. DuckTales, I can still pop in DuckTales, enjoy it for what it was, and not have to worry about it trying to touch on themes of the day or whatever's current in media or...
Don't want the episode about how Scrooge McDuck isn't paying enough taxes.
How Scrooge isn't paying enough taxes, how the boys need to get into recycling, how it's just like, for crying out loud, let kids be kids. Don't like bombard them with like, well, I've got to have a message. It's like, that just ruins it for me, which I don't know.
I think that even back, there is subtle messages in some of the originals. There are subtle messages,
but they're more morality messages. They aren't like, I don't know. there aren't these messages that just sort of like... Let's go to a non-cartoon, like MacGyver. The latter seasons of MacGyver were totally ruined because they tried to touch on more quote-unquote relevant topics. Like, I remember this one episode, I was just like, I'm going to skip it. This is like all about gang violence and him trying to solve a problem. And it was just like, that's not why
those are my favorite episodes.
Sorry,
I love those. Those are so cheesy.
I was going to say, the cheese factor is over the top. I want to see MacGyver kidnapped by other spies, because he was basically a spy, kidnapped by them and getting out of the situation with the soy sauce packet, which actually happened.
And I take your point. And really, the cultural relevance episodes are always like, well, like it's almost a cliche that it's the ones that everybody hates in an episode. And even back, my personal favorite culturally relevant story ever of all time is from Dinosaurs.
Oh, you're talking about the way it ended?
Yes, where they did the drug episode. And then...
Oh, the drug episode. I thought you were talking about the final series finale.
No, not the finale. No. They did the drug episode about how... God, it's been so long, I don't even remember the kid's name. But the teenage kid was doing drugs, and they had the whole Don't Do Drugs episode. And then at the end, rolled the credits and everything. And then at the end, they've got the character in, like, Robbie, I think it was. in like, dinosaur outfit, like, sitting behind the camera, like, in his director's chair, and he steps up and goes, "Please, kids, I know this was a comedy episode, but please, don't do drugs. Otherwise, we'll have to keep making more shows like this."
Okay.
And it was just perfect cap on it, because even then, everybody realized that it's been done to death and nobody wants to see it anymore. So, yes, I can see your point of, like, trying to add those in there. But my biggest worry about it is changing the animation. Stop it.
Are you worried about them going CG or something? Because that's my worry, is that they'll try to do some kind of CGI thing.
They did that in the DuckTales movie.
Animation. What?
Like, the DuckTales movie, they did, like, more of a 3D sort of thing.
Well, sort of, but how do I say it? I felt like the DuckTales movie at least kept in the same kind of style-ish. Like, nobody...
It was stylistically the same, even though they added more of a three-dimensional element to it.
Yeah, it was stylistically the same. It wasn't like they decided everything needed to be computer animation, which is what I'm worried about, not CGI, sorry. But yeah, I don't want to see, like, I don't think we need I don't know. Yeah, I'm worried about the animation.
It doesn't have to be actually hand-drawn, but it has to look that way.
Yeah.
You know, like, I want it to be that same style. I want it to look like, you know, I stopped watching in 1992, and now I'm watching it again.
Yeah.
They just started making more episodes of the exact same show. That's all I want. I want the exact same thing, just more of it.
Yeah,
and if they do that, I think that kids, adults, I think that you'll get nostalgia. Like, everybody will be watching it. I think all your stoners sitting there on their couch are going to be watching freaking DuckTales all the time. I think
it would have more mass appeal, and I don't think that's just like nostalgia speaking. I think that's just that I think there's, how else to say it, too much of the same on TV, and something that would be a throwback, like a DuckTales reboot done in the old style. Again, it doesn't have to be actually hand-drawn, but if you make the style look like it was hand-drawn, then there's a lot, I don't know, there's a lot more potential there. Also, there was a lot of pacing that I really enjoyed. If you watch some of those older DuckTales cartoons, there's like scenes where they just sit there and they walk along as they're headed towards where they're going, or they actually spend time flying to their destination, and it makes it feel less frenetic. You don't feel like the characters are running around with their hands in the air or screaming like... I'm sorry. That's come straight out of my loathing of SpongeBob. It just always seems like everything's popping off the screen. Everything's always happening. Screaming, running. You know, nobody's sitting around and having a conversation about how do we get out of this mess. It's like some idiot grabs a jackhammer as they're drooling over themselves. And anyway, sorry. Just having seen the pacing of the cartoons. But also, segueing to a different cartoon that's rebooting from the 80s would be one of my personal favorites I still have on VHS, be Danger Mouse. Apparently they're in production right now, and Netflix has plans to acquire it. Yeah,
I saw that.
You're sitting there going,
yeah, a little bit.
Why cringy? I know
it's scary. It's scary. This is like DuckTales. I think you can very easily pick up and keep going. But Danger Mouse is so in its time. You know?
Well, so it's sort of an animal cartoon parody of like 60s British sci-fi. Sorry, not sci-fi.
It's Doctor Who.
Well, it's not just Doctor Who, but it's
they did
spy
that
drama. They're basically cartoon animated spy drama of like, it's more, I think it's more in the vein of the Avengers, not the...
Well, it is. It is very a lot Avengers.
It's the Avengers, only with a mouse and a
hamster. I'm just thinking of the whole story arc that they did, the Doctor Who story arc.
No, they did a whole Doctor Who story arc on Danger Mouse, which was awesome.
One of my favorite string of episodes.
But you're worrying that it's too much locked into its time?
Or locked into its place. I mean, I don't think it's like... We've seen a few different times they tried to make an American Doctor Who. Yeah. And we saw how well that turned out. You know, I'm just worried that it's not going to be British enough.
Yeah, I can see. Well, it's being produced in Britain. It's not like it's being made here in the States. It's just they're going to import it. From what I've read.
Okay.
But I'm more
a little less worried now.
I don't know. I guess I'm more worried because, again, I go back to the, like, let's make it up to date. I think it needs to stay in the time period it's parodying. Even though kids may not be able to relate to it, I guess. I don't want to say not relate to it, but they wouldn't know what it was supposed to be imitating. But just because they wouldn't know the time period and style that it was parodying doesn't mean that they wouldn't be able to appreciate it.
Right, and I didn't even get all of the jokes in there, even when I was watching it. And like I watch it years later, and I go, "Oh, hey, that's funny. I get that now." And which one of the beauties of watching something like Danger Mouse is that, "Oh, I get that now."
Yeah, smartly written. That's the other thing too. No characters running around screaming like they're idiots. Anyway.
Yeah, exactly. You can't just be, Danger Mouse for the sake of doing Danger Mouse. It can't be
like we have this property. Let's use it. Thanks very much, Mr.
It can't be
Michael
the
Bay.
remake of the Avengers, not the Marvel one, but the one with what's his name and the other chick.
Ralph Fiennes. Oh gosh, why am I Uma Thurman?
And Uma Thurman, yes, which wasn't horrible.
Which wasn't terrible. It wasn't great. It wasn't that good.
It wasn't the Avengers,
it wasn't the Avengers. It tried to do this sort of in between thing where the movie was sort of like the series, but also it was like somebody had watched 2 episodes of the series and then tried to mimic that in movie form without really having an idea why they were doing it,
and not really understanding the dynamic between the characters. I mean, really had no clue what was going on, and I'm afraid that they might do that to Danger Mouse. That's my big worry about that.
Well, there's a lot of dry, droll humor in Danger Mouse watching it over.
There is, but I think that keeping that in there is very important to making it work as, because it's just not the same without that. It has to be very British. Sorry, it has to be very British.
Yeah, no.
And I am less worried about updating the style with that one.
Really?
Like, I think that you could probably do stylistic changes with Danger Mouse and still keep Danger Mouse, but it has to be so terribly British.
Yeah, no, it does. I would definitely agree on. I think
you've really got to kill the Britishness in that.
Yeah. If it doesn't feel 100% genuine, like that, yes, this is a British-made show, and this is their product, then you feel like it's betraying the brand.
Right. It has to be Blackadder. It has to be Faulty Towers. I mean, it has to be. All of that, like, has to be so British that, that you kind of hurts a little.
Yeah, no.
That's kind of where you need to go with that.
Okay. Yeah, no, I get what you're saying. I don't feel like, I don't know. Like I said, I'm always just worried about the differences between the computer animation and hand drawn.
I've seen
and voice actors. I know it's impossible because, like, the guy who played Penfold on the cartoon has already passed away. Yeah, if you want to find somebody who at least sounds similar, I'm worried also about them changing. I guess that goes back to what you were saying about
just
being
hire
British.
Billy West; he'll do all the voices. It'll be fine.
Yeah, I again, part of this is nostalgia, and the other part of it is that because of that nostalgia, it makes you that much more protective, knowing that what was there before, you have a soft place in your heart for because it worked well. I don't have any soft, warm fuzzies about Captain Planet and the Planeteers. I mean, I've seen numerous internet videos where that's just like the butt of a joke because it's just so stupidly.
Right.
It's yeah. Anyway, I can't think of a good segue for this. I just wanted to talk for a little bit about Daredevil coming to Netflix. Like, Marvel just seems to be making all the smart decisions lately with what to do with their property. And why lately, I mean, for the past, 7 or 8 years now, they've just been firing on all pistons. And rather than trying to do a reboot of Daredevil on the big screen, they've decided to put it on the small screen on Netflix.
Which I think is probably the best idea. And probably the best way to go with it, because I don't think you could probably do another, big budget movie version of Daredevil at this point.
Do you think it's because it got ruined by Ben Affleck, or just because it's just like that he doesn't have the staying power?
It doesn't have the cachet, the following, I guess, that many of the other superheroes do. Captain America, although. Whoever heard of Guardians of the Galaxy before they made a movie?
That was a huge gamble, and it paid off. It was like one of the biggest movies to come out, if not the biggest movie.
Yeah, I think it was the biggest movie.
Actually, no. Technically, American Sniper came out last year. Now it's surpassed it, but barely.
I think it's just bigger. I think it's the biggest R-rated movie, but it didn't make more than Guardians of the Galaxy.
I'd have to look that up, but yeah, no, it was the biggest summer movie. We can.
Okay, well, we'll say biggest summer movie. We'll say one of the biggest of last year.
Okay, but
Guardians of the Galaxy, and but certainly as a comic fan, I heard of Guardians of the Galaxy. I knew Rocket Raccoon, and was looking forward to seeing Rocket Raccoon up on the big screen. But I think that any property that you do and you do it well like that, you could do. I think that people were
already soured.
Yeah, already and way too soured. There's you could reboot something that people didn't hate, but way too many people really hated the Daredevil movie.
Really?
Really?
I didn't hate it. I never saw Electra because I worked at the theater at the time, and just popping in, I was just like, this is so mind-numbingly stupid. I don't even want to spend a couple of hours on a free ticket to see it. But Daredevil,
I saw it, and yes, it was. But
I actually owned Daredevil for a short time. For a short time, I indulged in owning this movie. Really? People hated it that much?
People hated it that much, and not even in that kind of gleeful hate that people seem to take in Green Lantern, which, I like Green Lantern, but I think Ryan Reynolds is awesome. So,
but he's stupidly miscast in that. Like, why would you cast somebody who's a comedic actor in a role where you need somebody to be acting like Captain America? Because
like you need somebody that's more serious and not somebody who's
not so serious that they can't make a joke. Like, which is why Chris Evans and the whole why he worked for Captain America is because like he's serious but not serious to the point of taking himself over the top serious. But Ryan Reynolds as Green Lantern, that was as stupid as casting Seth Rogen as Green Hornet. It's just like, look, just because this guy's been in movies and you think it's going to be hilarious to put this new, fresh, drug-addled spin on the thing, it's like, who thinks
I enjoy Green Hornet. I gotta be honest, I like that one.
I liked that. I feel like they did the side characters well in that. It's like, oh, cool, look.
I think that it's way more important to do the side characters. Who cares who Green Hornet is? It was all about Kato in the first place.
Yeah, but you
it's the Kato show.
But not everybody going into it knows that. And plus, you still need somebody who can play. I think you need, how do I say it? Kato can be fun, but you need somebody to be, I would almost say that's where you need somebody who is over the top serious. You don't need, I'm sorry, maybe I don't like Seth Rogen as I was going to say person, but I don't know him as an actor. But yeah, no, back on point. Daredevil, yes. Do you think people hate it? I'm still surprised at that people hated it that much.
But Ryan Reynolds is going to be back as, what's his name?
Deadpool.
As Deadpool.
That's smart. See, that's smart casting.
Which is perfect. Because he's known as being like a wisecracking kind of guy. And I think that, both Deadpool and Ryan Reynolds known for the wisecracking.
Yeah.
And, these kind of works that way. So,
yeah.
So good casting there. So I had to throw that aside.
No, that's a smart thing. See, though, that's the smart, easy decision to make. Kind of like, okay, Neil Patrick Harris is hosting. We'd better open up with a music number because if we don't, that'd be stupid. Anyway, but okay, so
so back to the new Daredevil show. Is it? Do you know? Are they doing live action or animation?
It's live action because I can't know Vince DiFornio. I don't know how to pronounce his name. He was the bug in Men in Black. Vincent
D'Onofrio.
Thank you. For some reason, his name, like in my mind, goes weird. He's cast as Kingpin.
Oh, he's gonna be great. I love him and everything. He is such.
Not that I have any problem with him. I just wish that Michael Clarke Duncan was still around because I liked him.
Oh yeah, he would have been great.
I liked it. I may not have liked Ben Affleck as Daredevil, but I loved Clark Duncan as Kingpin. I just thought not only was he physically built like that, but he just pulled off the persona.
Well,
he pulled off the persona. Awesome.
Really great. Yeah, I think that. I think, and I was thinking about this a bit because my first thought was, Daredevil, really? How are you gonna make that work? Like, aren't we kind of, like, stuck in our minds with the Ben Affleck version? Like, isn't it kind of somewhere sour in the back of our heads? And is anybody actually going to watch it? But then I said, Netflix. That is perfect. That's the only way you could do it. Because you can't do, like they're doing, with the new Flash series.
Yeah.
You have kind of the long arc.
Yeah.
That you have with the series, but each episode needs to kind of be self-contained.
Yeah.
So you have your Freak of the Week, plus a little bit of the ongoing
Freak of the Week
story.
Was actually working for the big boss that he faces at the end, kind of like a video game. Anyway.
Right. Although Gotham is doing a long arc, which is good. I mean, each episode is kind of its own story, but it is doing a long arc and trying to do that. And I guess Breaking Bad did a long arc. But I think that nobody does long arc as well as Netflix does. Maybe just because you could put out the whole season.
Yeah.
And it ends up being like a really, really long movie. It's like, you watch House of Cards and each season is a 13-hour movie. Essentially. It's like just goes and goes and goes. Yeah. And I think that that's the only way that you get Daredevil to work is having that long arc. You have that 13-hour movie.
You basically made a long movie that's instantly dropped on to the Netflix platform.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's the only way that works, because that's kind of, well, how comics work, really. Like, because each comic is its own thing, but they've still got that long arc of still searching for this or still going for that, and Banner's still searching for a cure, and Hulk still trying to get rid of this annoying scientist that keeps showing up. You know?
Yeah. No, I get that. And I was going to say, actually, to be fair, still the best superhero movie of all time, Superman, is like almost 3 hours long when you look at the director's cut, or if you want to look at it as all one big thing with why did I go blank? Richard Donner.
Yeah.
Richard Donner's entire vision is basically would be like a 6-7 hour thing. That's from the time that he leaves Krypton as a baby to the time that he encounters Zod.
Yeah,
and all
yeah, because
that was all
essentially all one.
It was all
story.
Essentially all one story, and I believe, if I recall correctly, it was all shot at the same time. And they just broke it into 2 movies.
And then they didn't like Dick Donner's version of the second one, so they made it stupid.
So they made the stupid version. Yeah, the Richard Donner cut. If you don't own it on DVD, go, because
yes, go get it. Go get it immediately. It is so much better. It's
a much different movie, a much smarter movie. Anyway, but yeah, speaking of smarter, you're right. That is a smarter way of doing it, breaking it. I hadn't thought about that as the potential. And I guess I'm still kind of blown away that people hated it. Like, hated it to the point that it wasn't like a, haha, yeah, that was dumb. But hated it to the point that it's...
Yeah, it's not even like joke hating it. Like Green Lantern is like, oh, that was stupid movie. That was stupid. Because you can reboot Green Lantern. I mean, you can reboot Green Lantern like 5,000 different ways. You know, I mean, there's probably 5,000 different Green Lanterns that you could put as the lead. But, you know, I think that people have too much attached to how much they hated that version.
I recall that it came out in February, which didn't do it any favors either.
Yeah.
As far as box office numbers, amount of people who could see it. So I can see that might have affected it too, because I know, like I said, it was a February movie when Ben Affleck's version came out a while ago.
Yeah.
Which means that whoever sees it are the people who really, really want to see it, not people who are just throwing away money saying, like, oh, it's summer, let's go see a movie.
Yeah.
Which I think would probably, if they would have had some kind of audience, even the audience of, I don't like it, but it was just a movie, then...
Yeah, which
you forget these kind of things when you're actually working at the theater. The people don't have the disposable income to just go see whatever.
Like most people see 1-2 movies a year, and yeah, like the February release, that's gonna be pretty much exclusively the fans of Daredevil.
Yeah,
that are gonna go see that, and the fans of Daredevil really didn't like that.
Okay. Well,
it was what's the guy that can hit every Deadshot, right?
It wasn't Deadshot. Deadshot's the guy from DC. It was Bullseye. Bullseye was his main villain in that.
Yeah, and people really hated the depiction of that. Really, there was a whole lot of vitriol about the way that Bullseye was portrayed, which I didn't hate. I thought Daredevil was okay.
Yeah,
you know?
I thought Daredevil was okay.
But then I wasn't a huge fan of the comics.
I was going to say it might be because I'm not as familiar with that comic as I am with the others. I'm familiar with Kingpin because he's not restricted to the Daredevil universe.
Right.
But I had no idea that the fan base was so loathing of that movie.
yeah, they really didn't like that, and Bullseye especially.
Okay,
really objected to that.
So here's hoping that the Daredevil one works out better on Netflix and they do smarter things. I don't even know if we know who's been cast as Daredevil yet. I just know
I haven't heard. No.
I just know about Kingpin's casting, and that's about it.
But, well, high hopes, and I think really the long arc is really the what's really going to save it. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, being able to tell it, a 13-hour movie.
Yeah.
So at first, wasn't excited, but then saw Netflix and went, okay, I think they can do it.
It has a shot.
It has a shot because you don't have to worry about people continuing to tune in. Because people will watch the first 3 episodes
in one sitting.
Yeah, like you're going to sit down, and even if you don't think the first episode is awesome, you're going to watch another episode just to see, like, oh, okay. You know, kind of getting into, oh, hey, 3 episodes. Wow, I'm hooked. Yeah, I'm going to watch the rest of this. I'm going to watch this entire series right now.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's the advantage that Netflix has in dropping everything at once, is that you kind of go, oh, okay, I thought the first episode was okay, but you know, so I'll give the second episode a chance and continue on with it. And I think that will help it a lot. And kind of help to rebuild the brand and maybe put a new face on it. And maybe now we'll see Daredevil show up in other Marvel shows.
Well, yeah, but I don't think they bring him in from the TV show to the theater universe. At least I don't see that happening. I could be wrong.
Oh, I think so. I think you can. I think especially because of the Netflix model. Because you can have everything and post it all at once, and then you'll be good, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, because you've got time in between. So you can have the characters show up, and then you can reference the movie that they were just in. Unlike what went...
Oh, like I heard about what happened in New York or something like that.
Yeah, like the awkwardness of trying to work in the Captain America stuff into Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I mean...
I haven't seen that.
I love Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but like after Captain America Winter Soldier came out, there was like awkward references to it that weren't like totally like talking about it, but kind of like side talking about it.
Yeah.
I think that's a problem there, which I think that Marvel would probably be very good at if they had the ability to do the series. You have the 13-hour Daredevil movie, essentially, and then you have, you know, the Avengers, and they go, you know, the Avengers are put on trial, and Daredevil's, forget Daredevil's alternate name, but what is real?
Matt Murdock.
Matt Murdock, there you go.
It's like I'm sitting here. It's an alliterative name. We like doing that in the Marvel universe.
Yeah, Stan Lee and his alliterative names. But yes. Yes, I see that could work.
Alrighty. Dog's in the background if you hear it. Okay. Again, I don't know how to segue into some of these things, so we're just going to go for the Goonies 30th anniversary coming up.
Man, oh yeah, I saw. Okay, so
it's like I shared that with you just the other day. It was just like, because somebody else that I know was talking about it, and it was just like, oh wow, really? It's like I want to go, but I don't know how you would convince somebody like, hey, honey, let's go vacationing in Oregon this year.
Well, I tell you, I saw it and I thought the same thing. Well, even more so than I thought when I first heard about that there's a Lebowski Fest. Like, you have a whole, like, festival surrounding one movie, and this has got, like, a whole weekend surrounding it.
It's the 30th anniversary, and Goonies never say die. And neither do the fans.
A whole weekend, and they're putting up, you know, they're got tours, and they're building, like, Lego things, and I'm like, really? Okay, sci-fi convention, fine. There's lots of sci-fi movies.
Yeah, you could do Star Wars, Star Trek, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, you can have it all at once. And you have a comic book convention, and there's tons of comic books. It's not all about, like, you're really that obsessed with one movie that you have to have a whole festival surrounding it?
I hear that they make a lot of money off of that one little town of Astoria. I mean, it's like the movie has done wonders for their tourism and such. Like, I imagine you're driving through that part of
I'm sure you're gonna
the Northwest. You're just stop like, look, it's Astoria. We have to stop by, honey. I mean, if I was on a trip there, oh well, it's like that really. Sorry, got a dog in the background that just thinks the microphone's awesome. But anyway, sorry.
But that's. Okay, yes, and when I was driving back east to go see Dogma...
It was like, you saw it, but... Okay,
I saw the sign for Punxsutawney, and I went, oh, we should go to Punxsutawney! Yes, and honestly, when I first saw it, I actually thought the same thing that I thought when I first saw There's a Lebowski Fest. Was, when is it and how can I get there? Ooh, Legos!
Yeah.
I was just
your initial reaction as a fan is like, oh, this is awesome, I have to go. It's like, wait a second, can I really devote a whole weekend to just, like,
go, like, nostalgia? Goonies? Really? Well,
yeah, I don't know if I can afford to get the time off work. This happens in early June, too, and everything, and I don't know if I have the money to save up and go, but even if I could, even if I had the cash flow to do something like this, I'm still, like, I don't know, it's like, am I that much of a Goonie diehard? And you think of the line, you're like, oh, Goonies never say die. But yeah, it's amazing. One, that's coming up on 30 years, and two, that there's such a cult following behind it that they can devote. Well, when do you see a movie that, like, that has that much, I don't know, I don't want to say connection with people, that so many people agree that we love that was part of our childhood, and I want to see that again. I don't care if it's the 15 or 15,000th time I've seen it. It plays in the background while I clean type of movie.
Right. Well, and I think that's kind of a product of a certain generation. That was kind of our shared consciousness at the time, was the movies that we went to. And I think that probably it was that specific point in time that you have Back to the Future, you have Star Wars, you have Goonies, that like kind of were cultural touchstones where we all saw that movie and we all talked about it at recess the next day after we saw it, you know, and we all
school, but still that was something of the group meetups. So, it was Goonies. Why not just actually go right into it? I'll ask you, Mr. Lunchbox, what you think, or what was your initial reaction when you heard that, oh my gosh, Harrison Ford's been in a plane crash?
Well, I didn't just hear that Harrison Ford's been in a plane crash. Like, when I first heard it, it was Harrison Ford's been in a plane crash, but he's okay, you know. So I kind of got the news all at once that he was in a plane crash and he's okay.
Okay.
Like, what his son had tweeted, you know, battered but okay.
Yeah.
You know, and he was apparently went down, he was conscious, and he was just banged up a bit. Apparently there was a spinal surgeon that was on the golf course he crashed on. That was one of the first people on the scene, like ran to the plane.
So there was a doctor on a golf course. I'm sure there's a joke in there. I just can't think of it.
Yes, might be. But a spinal doctor, and ran to the plane, smelled gasoline, and didn't want it to explode with Harrison Ford inside. So he and his friends...
But if it was Carrot Top, oh my God. Quick, no, get the matches, guys. Anyway,
but so he had to help his friends helped him stabilize the spine. A spinal surgeon there to help him stabilize his spine and help him get out to make sure that he would be okay. Just kind of the coincidence blew my mind, but but I think what really struck me was that he crashed the plane into a golf course. And he was a bit banged up.
Yeah. As one might be.
As you would expect would happen to anyone.
Except Launchpad McQuack.
Yes, of course.
Walk away from it.
Of course.
Okay.
But a few months ago, he broke his leg on the set of the new Star Wars movie.
Yeah.
Okay, so crashing a plane, he didn't break any bones. But something on the set of... What the heck was he doing on Star Wars that he broke a leg?
I heard it was something like on the door. The actual door of the Millennium Falcon. Like some kind of mechanism with it. Like, sorry about the little break in the segments there, guys. We were just talking about Harrison Ford's death. Not Harrison Ford. Leonard Nimoy's death. Harrison Ford's plane crash. And I was about to say that I feel like it's hard because you lose people like this or come close to losing them. And not only is it this kind of mortality reminder, but it's also a reminder that it feels like you're running out of star power in Hollywood. Like their, I mean, you can talk about the Golden Age and Silver Age. Well, that's comics, but the Golden Age of Hollywoods.
Yeah.
Hollywoods. We have
all of the Hollywoods.
All of the Hollywoods. The entire Hollywoods. You think of like Mickey Rooney's, Cary Grant's. You think of stuff like that, and those people have come. They've come and gone. They've passed away, but it seemed to be. I don't know how to say it. You seem to have this cycle of actors who come and go. Like, okay, right. you lose some of the greats, but you still have great ones coming in.
Yeah.
And I found this quote that actually, I'm not sure if he meant it as a joke or what, but it's Chris Rock from the 77th Academy Awards. There are only 4 real stars, and the rest are just popular people. And I was like, can I actually think of 4 stars that, like, if you put them as the forefront of the movie and said starring, that it would be a draw, or at least I might be interested in seeing this because it has that person. And yes, because J.K. Simmons.
Yes, J.K. Simmons.
I would put J.K. Simmons in that category. Tom Cruise, despite everybody's...
Well, yeah, certainly Tom Cruise.
I think he gets way too much flack for the whole stupid thing with the couch.
And being,
a Scientologist. I don't care if he's a Scientologist. Does he do a good job? Yeah.
Yeah, like so's John Travolta, but I probably wouldn't put his name up on the marquee anymore.
Sorry.
No. He had his run, and he had a good run, and then had resurgence.
He had a good run
after Pulp Fiction. Like you could run a John Travolta movie.
Yeah.
But then Battlefield Earth, and he ruined it.
Yeah.
And nobody wanted to see a John Travolta movie after he did Battlefield Earth. He kind of ruined everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, I understand what you mean. Like you used to have, like even if you go, Humphrey Bogart, you had Mickey Rooney had his whole thing. Like even if you continue on and come up to like let's say come up to the 80s and say it's a Jean-Claude Van Damme movie.
Yeah, even though you know what you're getting into, or an Arnie movie.
Yeah, an Arnie movie. Like you could definitely put them top of the bill. And their name can be bigger than the title, because you're gonna go see it because
Arnold Schwarzenegger is the Terminator.
Yeah, exactly. And or Steven Seagal even made 100 movies then of and all of them with interchangeable names. You could
Hard
interchange
to Kill for Pressed Time or something.
All of that. Hard to Kill, Left to Die, all of those that, could have applied to any of the movies that were made at that time,
Yeah.
Hard Target could be about freaking anything, but...
I was gonna say, are you actually coming up with names of movies, or are these just ones you're coming up with the top of your head? And I'm like, I can't tell the difference when it comes to... But that's the point, though, is even with somebody as... goofy as Steven Seagal, who even at like a hefty 500 pounds over whatever his now weight is, he probably still has black belt skills that kick my tush. He or Jean-Claude Van Damme or Arnie or Bruce Willis.
Bruce Willis, yeah.
These are people who I don't know how else to say it, but you'd almost... I'm sure if somebody tracked it, there'd be like a cycle of people in Hollywood. Like, okay, this person's star is fading, but we don't have the Cary Grants or the Jimmy Stewarts anymore. But now we have Bruce Willis, Tom Cruise, Michael Caine, or whatever. I know I'm like mixing decades here.
I'm like, you went like back and forth there.
I went back and forth.
Up to 90s, back to the 70s.
I know, but the point is you can't. You know what I'm going with this, right? Or at least what I'm getting at is that you do have like, okay, this person's star is faded or they passed away.
Yeah.
And the only downside is that we're not going to see any more movies with this person, or if we do, they're going to be like in a subdued role, or cameo role, or a side role. But they're still around, but they aren't the main focus anymore. It's going to be. Maybe Michael Caine is somebody else's butler or something, but...
Well, but I don't even know if there are... I mean, certainly we mentioned Tom Cruise. Tom Cruise, huge actor and definitely a star. But is he the box office draw? I mean, really, when it comes right down to it, would you see a movie just because Tom Cruise?
I think that, that's a whole other can of worms, because there's a part of me that has that thing against what I perceived as pretty boys to a degree. Like, it took me forever to be convinced that Brad Pitt could act until I saw him in 12 Monkeys. And then I was like, oh, wow, he's willing to actually to get dirt under his fingers, so to speak, both literally and figuratively. Mm-hmm. He's willing not to be sitting there looking like, I've got to have my hair just so I'm not showing up on camera.
Get out of my chair!
Yeah, and he shows up as a deranged lunatic with, like, crazy eyes and long hair. And you're like, okay, he can act. That's awesome. I didn't know about that about him, but yeah, I think that...
I knew from Legends of the Fall, but...
How do I say it? The movie that just came out last year, which is actually really good, which should have done better. It's not Live, Die, Repeat. It's Edge of Tomorrow. It should have been called Live, Die, Repeat because that's a better title than Edge of Tomorrow.
Because Edge of Tomorrow means nothing.
Edge of Tomorrow means nothing, and it sounds generic. It sounds generic as all get out. It sounds like a sci-fi movie of the week title. Like Live, Die, Repeat. That's something I want to see on a marquee.
And I know what that movie's about.
I know it's Groundhog Day.
Oh yeah, it's Groundhog Day with action. Yeah, got
Groundhog Day with aliens. I can't remember. Our brother Darren had actually. So it's like Groundhog Day with aliens or something like that, or Starship Troopers meets Groundhog Day, something like that. I think it was Starship Troopers meets Groundhog Day.
Yeah, which actually is a good explanation of it. And actually, I really enjoyed the movie. I mean, it's actually a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And I think Tom Cruise is a good actor, so yeah, I like seeing him and stuff.
But his name in the billing actually helped it, because I think it, for me personally, because I knew that he'd be able to, whatever pre-boyish feelings I have about him in the past, I know at least what to expect from him as an actor, and that he can pull off the role that he's in. And that I don't need to worry about like some kind of B-list actor that's going to make me kind of squirm in my seat because the performance isn't that good, or they're kind of chewing scenery while they are there, but that they can take a scene both joking and serious and kind of find that in between. And
he's very good at that.
He's good at that, and that's what as an actor should be. But he but what I'm saying is people like him are getting fewer and far between, like, that you expect to pull off a certain role and be versatile enough to pull off the role. You don't have a large bank of people that can...
Well, see, and I don't even necessarily think that it's versatility there.
Oh.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, even if you... Because...
That's true. It's not exactly like Steven Seagal can act his way out of a paper hat. But
if you say, you put Steven Seagal up at the top of the movie, I know what kind of movie I'm seeing. Except that you don't anymore, because he's not in half of the movie in the new movies he's making.
Yeah, really.
Oh, which the vampire movie was the last one I saw.
I was actually thinking also there was an action movie, Jet Li, The One. Yeah. His name was above the title, and the whole premise was kind of goofy, weird sci-fi, but it was an excuse to see Jet Li do action scenes, and that's an example off the top of my head of somebody who, he's not exactly acting in a way that's making you like that was a deep, powerful performance. But I'm going to go see it because his name was in the title. Yeah,
because it says Jet Li or it says Jackie Chan. I'm going to go see that because, well, hey,
Jackie Chan in Operation Condor. What's it about? I don't know.
It's got Jackie Chan in it.
It's got Jackie Chan in it. They could run somebody over with a hover thing at the end. All I care. It's got Jackie Chan.
Yeah, it's exactly, and that's I think there is still that certain cachet of but Jackie's getting up there and going to need to start doing some green screen pretty soon.
I think he is, but you don't see him in much anymore.
That's true, and
same with Jet Li.
Or Jet Li.
I mean, the last time I saw Jet Li, and if they make an Expendables 4, that they might have Jackie Chan in it, unless he was in the third one, which I still need to see.
I don't believe he was.
Okay. But yeah, you have, like, even when it comes to action stars, you had people who have people who pull in names,
but like, who are big action stars now?
I can't think of any off the top of my head. When I see a movie that's
Arnold Schwarzenegger, he's coming back.
He's coming back. He said he would be back, though. That doesn't count.
They've got a new Terminator with Arnold in it.
Arnold in it. But yeah, one of the action movies that I've wanted to see are the Expendables movies, but that's because it has people in them that I recognize. Jason Statham. He hasn't been in quite as much. He's been in a lot of direct to Netflix, but direct to video-ish type films. But I'll watch him because it has him in them. I'm just watching it to see him do his thing.
Watching kick people's butts. Sure. And you kind of know what you're going, except for Bank Job, which he didn't really do that in, but it was a good performance.
Yeah, I was gonna say, which one was Bank Job? Oh yeah, no, he didn't.
Yeah, no, not really a kicking butt kind of movie, but yeah, he was good in it.
He was good in it.
Like, and so you know that he can do kind of a layered performance and be pretty good at that. So it might not be exactly what you expect, but it's going to be good with him in it. Yeah, I guess Jason Statham, and probably, well, who else was that? Except that we don't see as much from Vin Diesel anymore, except from the Fast and Furious movies.
Which is stupid, because I thought that Vin Diesel was going to be like the next... Vin Diesel should be where Arnie was at his age. He should be cranking out these awesome action movies that I want to see him in. Yeah. Like I loved him in all the Pitch Black / Riddick movies. He's just awesome. I mean, that is his character, quite literally, that he had come up with in a property that it's his. But I want to see more of that. The problem is you're not seeing more of that. You're seeing more movies that are based around, instead of you have your central, like, okay, this is whatever, starring Vin Diesel or starring Tom Cruise or starring Tom Hanks. But still, he's a name. He's a name. He is a name.
He is a name that people know.
Whatever our own opinion is of Tom Hanks, there are people who like him as an actor who will go see movies just because it's a Tom Hanks movie.
True, and I'm sure that there are people who are woefully uneducated and wouldn't know to see a movie that had J.K. Simmons in it.
Yeah.
But I think that, but I don't think that you could, like, as awesome, as awesome as J.K. Simmons is, you couldn't put his name above the title.
No,
people wouldn't go see it just because he's, well, people would, but not enough so that you could put him as a marquee name.
Yeah.
And so I don't know how many names we do have anymore that go above the title. And I think that a lot of those names, like we've been mentioning, but they're in their 50s and 60s now. I mean,
yeah, they're getting, like, even the action stars. Well, like Vin Diesel in his late 40s at this point, I think.
Yeah, something like that. But so you think Vin is probably still young enough that he's got
Vin Diesel
few more years.
Pull off a few more action films in his time.
Yeah. Well, we've got Rock, Dwayne Johnson.
He was another one I expected to see more of, but he was only in a couple of films, which was
a couple of action films. And then he made like a bunch of like Disney type films.
And then he made a bunch of Disney films, which is just stupid.
Like not actual Disney films, but Disney type films.
Disney type films. Yeah, no, I know what you mean. Like
like Tooth Fairy.
The Tooth Fairy movie,
which was kind of silly, but I enjoyed it.
There was some kind of nanny movie or whatever. He did his own.
Oh yeah, like some
nanny type
he did Mr. Nanny, except it wasn't as good because it didn't have Hulk Hogan in it.
Yeah, I was gonna say he did his own series of like Hulk Hogan type films where he was like the big tough in the quirky situation with the big tough, which I just
the big muscular guy in the awkward situation that that he does an all right job with. I mean, he's charismatic and kind of pull it off.
He's charismatic. I would have liked to have seen one of those movies with the late great Randy Savage.
Oh yeah. As far as I know, the only movie that he was in was Ready to Rumble.
Well, that makes sense, then.
Oh, no, actually, he was in Spider-Man.
Oh, he was. He was in Spider-Man as Buzzsaw.
Yeah.
Which was awesome. But yeah, it's like, it's Randy! Anyway. But again, you couldn't put Randy Savage above the title and have people see it.
Well, not anymore. Not these days. Although, if you did these days... I think you might.
It'd be for CG performance, but it just, yeah.
You just get somebody out there, oh
yeah. Yeah. Somebody do a Randy Savage imitation, but they'd have to be done with love and care. Anyway.
Yeah, get Larry to do it. I'm sure Larry could do it. Get his brother Larry Poffo out there, and I think Larry could probably do a decent job doing
only
Randy
if he did,
impression.
I was going to say a random promo thing with what's-his-face. Anyway, back on point.
Mean Gene?
Yeah.
Oh yeah!
I was gonna say it's running out of that, and I think that started to happen. At least became more aware of like the fact that the star wasn't as important as whatever's action or whatever the story was supposed to be. Was in the early 2000s, I almost want to say, with like Tobey Maguire as Spider-Man, because everybody was just thrilled to see Spider-Man on screen. Not that Tobey Maguire did a bad job, but I don't think that
not in the first one.
What?
So not in the first one.
Not in the first one. I liked the second one. It was okay.
Second one was okay. The
third one. Actually, I read recent interviews with Sam Raimi about it, and he basically, without just saying, yeah, it was the studio's fault. He basically says, yeah, it was the studio's fault, and he did what he could, which I understand.
Peter Parker as Danny Terrio, it just didn't work.
It didn't,
he's walking down the street. You can almost see him carrying the paint can.
Yeah, and they tried two different, which I never understood. It's like, why can't you just have one villain, one big bad, and you don't have to kill him at the end. You don't have to be okay, and then the villain banana peel deaths himself, or the hero sets it up so the villain kills himself. I never got that with comic movies. We have to kill off the villain at the end. Why? That doesn't happen with comics. They present a threat at the end. They Batman locks up the Joker. He doesn't.
Can't you just throw him in Arkham Asylum? Come on.
That was my only complaint about the first movie.
I don't care if it's Marvel. Throw him in Arkham Asylum.
Yeah, that's what a great what a great writing conceit that the villain can always come back because they're so crazy they can figure out how to break out of a place that you put them in. Anyway, I'm trying to figure a good way to wrap up this discussion. I just feel like it. Yeah, I would never see a movie. In fact, I pointedly made sure that I'd never seen a movie all the way through with Seth Rogen in it, because I just don't think he's they've tried to put him as front billing on several movies, and every time they have, it's tanked. Minus Knocked Up, which did well, which I think is what fooled everybody into thinking this guy can carry a movie.
Pineapple Express did well.
Pineapple Express had a low budget though, and it was an ensemble cast movie. It wasn't just about him carrying the movie.
Okay.
I see you tilting your head back and thinking about it. And
I'm trying to think of other movies he was in, because the other one that popped into my head was This Is the End, but that's definitely an ensemble movie.
That's an ensemble movie.
I'm trying to think of other one, because there's got to be another one that he
carried by himself. That wasn't something that was really low budget. Because I
think the comedies that he's in by nature are low budget.
Well, yeah, but at the same time, it's also the kind of comedies he's in. You don't have something like Steve Martin and John Candy, where it's Steve Martin and John Candy are carrying that movie. The whole premise is stupid from start to go, but it's hilarious because they're able
they're funny.
Because they're funny.
Now, I'll grant you, he's not that caliber, but I still think that he could be funny. I think that he's I think he laughs too much at his own jokes.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and that gets you can tolerate it the first time, but when it's the fifth time you're doing the same kind of stoner movie and you're still sitting there drugs. It's dude, okay, I kind of half chuckled with you that first time, the first few minutes in the first movie that you did it in. That was kind of somewhat a haha, yeah, I get it. But
I guess maybe I just need to smoke more pot. Maybe then I'll think it's funny. And then maybe I'll also get SpongeBob and possibly Friendship is Magic.
Yeah.
But that's a whole nother discussion about how much I would need to smoke in order to enjoy a stoner movie.
Okay. I think let's get moving on, and I do want to come back to this topic again at some point, because I do feel like it's how did somebody put it, that the Hollywood lack of star power is now at crisis point, because we're just losing people that can carry a movie with their name. And I think you need a 1-2 punch of not only that subject that draws them in, Live, Die, Repeat, but you need the star like Tom Cruise, which it should have done better than it did. I have no idea why that movie possibly did not do as well.
Why? Because they had a horrible title.
Because they had it wasn't just the horrible title. I think there's people are still making a a big deal out of this whole bouncing up and down the couch. And,
well, yeah, I think that
probably I've seen people still to this day, in their reviews through online, they're still making the same stupid jokes that they were the first time it happened. Saying the same stupid stuff about his weird beliefs with Scientology. It's
they're hacks and don't understand how to review a movie.
Yes, but. There are also hacks with power and readership that it made people say, no, I don't want to see that. I remember. He was that guy who did that weird bouncy couch thing.
Yeah, that was 20 years ago? I mean, come on. Get over it already.
But it's those kind of things that...
he's a decent actor.
And not trying to keep it all on Tom Cruise, but it just goes to show.
But it's just like the biggest star that we could think of that's still working and still making decent movies.
Yeah, making movies that I'd want to go see again or watch again for the first time.
And might go see and might give a chance. Even if you thought you were borderline on, you might give it a chance because you go, oh, Tom Cruise is in it, and he's good, I'll go see that.
Yeah.
And there's one of the few. I mean, probably him and J.K. Simmons.
J.K. Simmons, yeah. Maybe Liam Neeson too, but he's like cranking out the weird kind of he's cranking out the "I'll find you and kill you" kind of movies.
Right, but he's doing the same sort of Steven Seagal thing.
He's doing the Steven Seagal thing at like 60.
That we're used to seeing, and we see that's a perfect example. Liam Neeson, see him above the title, you know what you're going to get, and you would go see a movie even if it's called Walk Among the Tombstones.
I don't know,
because you know what kind of movie you're going to be watching.
Yeah, I mean, I still haven't seen it yet, but there was
that movie. I haven't either because I know what kind of movie I'm going to be watching. Really. And I've seen this before.
We're going to be wrapping up with talking a little bit about trailers that were better than the movie. Those sad, sorry times when you saw something, were so hyped, it's going to be awesome, it's going to be great, and you got there and you paid your money, or in our case, working at the theater, you sat down for a few hours for free. Oh my gosh, I'm locked into this.
To be so good.
I expected this to be so good, and you're sitting there and you still want to convince yourself that it's going to be good. Eventually it's going to turn a corner, and then the credits roll, and it was never any good. Okay, real quick, Mr. Lunchbox, what would be your pick for this week for the trailer that was better than the movie?
Well, I think this one, it's not so much the huge letdown of the movie for me. On this one, it is, well, okay, a little bit of that, but it was Strange Days.
Strange Days, really?
Strange Days, because Strange Days, not the actual trailers that they ended up running, because those were kind of odd and weirdly disjointed, but the teaser trailer that they ran for it, which was just, it was Ralph Fiennes' face with bubbles coming around as he basically sold you the drug that they take in the movie. Like, just straight to camera, sells you the drug, and the whole thing is just his face with the words popping around. No footage from the movie, nothing. Which is one of my favorite trailers of all time, because it gives you nothing from the movie, but after watching the trailer, I went, wow, I've got to see this movie. Like, I think it was really totally intriguing about what he was telling you about, like, this drug that people were taking and makes you feel like you're another person and all this. And you're like, wow, yeah, this is amazing. And so I wanted to go see the movie, because it really intrigued me. And so I watched the movie, and I enjoyed most of that movie. But have you seen Strange Days?
No. I was thinking of something else when you said that, but yeah.
But basically, the movie takes place in 1999. And there's basically, it's this, well, because at the time, dystopian future, a little bit, where, people are on drugs, and there's basically, society is split between people that are trying to make society work and people that think the world is going to end at midnight before it turns to 2000, right? Like, they think that, January 1st, 2000 is the end of the world.
Yeah.
And so basically the whole movie is the argument between the two of them. And so you have, the good guys and the bad guys, or what we perceive as such. But really, the whole movie, if you watch it, you could watch it from either perspective. As, like, either the people that believe the world is going to end, and so we might as well have some fun right now, like, they might be right, or the people that are trying to make society work because society is going to keep on going after midnight might work. Either one of them might be right.
Yeah.
And there's the scene in the movie, which ends up being like 15 minutes or so before the end of the movie. But they're basically in, I think it's Times Square, and there's, the countdown. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 for the end of the end of the world, basically, like we think. And we're waiting for, and we hit midnight, and the movie keeps going. Which was totally the wrong decision. Like, what we should have seen is 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, hard black. Reprise the theme song, roll the credits. That's how that movie should have ended, and I was so disappointed that the movie kept going after that. I could not believe that I was still watching the movie. Like, I just ruined the entire movie for me because I'm like, why am I still watching movie? Like, that was the end of the movie, right there. Like, that hard black, right there. That's the end of the movie. I was so, and still am, so convinced that would have been the perfect end to that movie. Is hard black right at 3, 2, 1, boom, hard black. Like, not a fade to black, hard black right there. And that's end of movie, because it leaves it all ambiguous. You don't know who ends up being the good guys and the bad guys. Like, you don't know who was right.
Yeah.
Like, that was really, and for that reason, yes, okay, disappointed in the movie. Not because it was a bad movie, because I enjoyed it up to then, but that ruined the entire movie for me because it didn't end when it should have. So the probably my favorite trailer of all time, combined with my consternation at not knowing when to end a movie, I think is probably my biggest disparity, because I love that damn teaser trailer. It's so good, but the movie just didn't end.
Okay.
But what about you, Jester? What do you got?
Well, just for this week, we're planning on doing this every week. Like, it's hard because there's like, I have a long list. There's some I want to talk more about, some that I do briefly, and several come to mind. How do you pick? For this week, I'm going to go with Mummy 3, which there were so many things going wrong from the start with just having, with making a third Mummy movie. One, they didn't have Rachel Weisz back, and for good reason, because I agree with her. It was stupid to have their kid suddenly. He's one of the few good kid actors I actually seen, the one who played their son in the second movie. Mm-hmm. They didn't have him return as his role, or somebody who was like a teenager. Mm-hmm. They wanted to progress it a little further in the time spectrum, but just everything about the movie itself, when I saw it, was just like, this just isn't, it's off. It's nothing as like I remember it. Mm-hmm. Nothing like, maybe I can accept that they replaced one of the leads, maybe, but going in, the trailers had the same kind of feel that the original two did. You have this sort of like, he's almost like, Brendan Fraser. Brendan Fraser playing this sort of Indiana Jones-esque explorer, and they're this team, they're going out and having this adventure. They're finding this old treasure that turns out to be this whole cursed artifact that wants to take over, destroy / rule the world. Take your pick of what they're going to do to the world, but by golly, they'll have their way with it. So I had hope because of that. Plus, it had Jet Li as the villain, and not that Arnold, I think his name's Arnold Vosloo, whoever the guy was who played the actual main character of the Mummy. Not that he was a bad character actor. He was pretty good, actually.
Vosloo, I've seen him on a bunch of stuff. He's good. Yeah.
I think he's a good character actor villain.
Yeah, definitely nails the villain every time.
Yeah. But they had like a named person behind it. I believe it was Jet Li was actually playing the I can't remember what his title was. He was basically playing the Asian version of the Mummy, some sort of like Shogun.
Asian Mummy.
Sorry, I don't think that's racist to say. It was basically what they were going for, which I'm fine with. I think it was a cool new way of trying to approach it. So the trailer had this build up that made it say like, okay, we know there's a lot of stuff that has it going against it, possibly like a different lead, and we've made it so that the son in the movie is practically the same age as one of our leads, but it could still work. There's still that hope that it can work, because at the time, Brendan Fraser was actually popping in and out of a good number of movies himself, and sometimes there were hits, sometimes there were misses. Mm-hmm. But he had a good character. The character was one you wanted to see reprised again. You want to see these people again.
Yeah.
And everything about the movie is a horrible misfire. You get in there and they point out the fact that it's not Rachel Weisz anymore playing the female lead. I mean, they don't just sort of like flow along with it and just go with it and say, okay, we don't need to draw attention to this fact. Like, I'm not the same person I used to be. It's like, well, no, duh. Who wrote this? Yeah. It's like stupid. You know, I'm already missing Rachel. You know, it was poorly written. The effects were still pretty good, but they weren't. How do we say it? With a movie that has like sand and dust is sort of like its own starring thing. The movie, the effects weren't as clean as they could have been, like as cleanly pulled off as they could have been. The character that I most wanted to see reprised, that Rick, I can't remember his last name in the movie, but the character of Rick, basically the indie role in the movie, was just. I don't know how else to say it. It felt phoned in. Like Brendan Fraser was just there saying, okay, I'm this guy again. And Rachel's gone, but I'm here. So, yeah. And they had the brother, I don't remember his name either.
Jonathan. Well,
I know his character name. But they had the character of Jonathan again. But even then, that felt a little forced. Like everything he was doing was a little over the top. I mean, not saying the other times in the movie was subdued. But going into it, having seen the trailer, I had a little bit of hope that, okay, they replaced the lead, they aged one of the actors in it, but I can deal. It's a reprisal.
Maybe they can make this work.
Maybe they can make this work, because these are characters I loved.
Yeah. I love Maria Bello. Well, she's been great in so many things, but
they had no chemistry together on the screen.
No,
whatsoever.
And definitely nowhere near as close as Rachel Weisz and Brendan Fraser.
No, and it just felt like if you've ever seen a movie where you have been painfully aware that these are actors playing out a scene, and I'm not just talking like
acting.
Like, oh yes, honey, how are you today? I am fine. I was at the college giving a lecture. It's not that stilted, but it may as well be, because there's no like pop and there's no click, there's no connection, and just
line.
Yeah, you're really, not that badly though, but just it felt like it. Yeah, the absolute lack of chemistry between the leads was just painful.
Again, I gotta say, I love them both to death. I think Maria Bello, Brendan Fraser, both great actors, but they didn't work together. And maybe it was just the writing. Maybe they didn't have enough to work with. Maybe the director didn't have any idea how to make it work.
I've heard the director had no idea, because it was a different director too at that point, wasn't it? It was like Joe Dante, I think, had taken over from who's that guy?
Was it Joe Dante?
No, it wasn't Joe Dante.
It couldn't have been Joe Dante. Joe Dante would know what he's doing.
It was somebody else.
Chris Columbus did the first one, I thought.
No, it wasn't Chris Columbus. It was the same guy who did Van Helsing. He always cast the same people.
Oh, that's right. Wait, I thought the guy.
I almost said Alan Silvestri, but that's the composer.
I thought the guy that did Van Helsing did the third one, right?
No, it's the same guy, because if you look, this director, Lunchbox is looking up the guy's name really quick because we can't remember, but he casts the same basic people. He has that guy who played the wormy guy in the first Mummy movie. He's in Van Helsing as like Igor, and I think Arnold Vosloo's in there somewhere as well. He has that same basic kind of style, which is good. I mean, directors should have like a sense of how they're doing a movie.
Stephen Sommers.
That's it. Stephen Sommers. He did the first two movies.
Yes. And did Scorpion King as well. Yes.
Yeah, which is why Scorpion King had the same kind of feel.
I knew it as an alliterative name.
Yeah. And that was, that was it. But yeah, I went in, even though it had a new director, new main lead, it had things going for it. Like the characters. I mean, that's another underpinning of like, stars are fading, but yeah, I had hopes. They were dashed. They were dashed rather quickly. They were dashed within the first reel. It was a bitter, bitter disappointment. Yeah. Yeah. My parents said to this day, like, love 1 and 2, but they pretend that 3 never happened.
They really only made 2 movies.
They only made 2 of those.
They only made 2 of those. What are you talking about 3? I don't remember that happening.
I think that's actually our mom's line. Is like, They're like, what are you talking? There was only 2 of those. There was only 2. Nope. The third just didn't happen, which... Oh, as a side note, something we could talk about next time is Aliens and how the reboot of that, they're doing a sequel to that with Sigourney Weaver. It's going to be a final version of it or whatever, but they're picking up where 2 left off, and they're pretending that 3 and 4 never happened. They're pretending, so all the stuff with her and Newt and the other guy and all that, they're going off of that storyline. Totally not, like 3 and 4 just never happened, is what they're going off of, which I thought was kind of awesome. Yeah. It's like,
well, which is what you kind of got to do.
Which is what you got to do, but still, I thought it was like, that's a brilliant decision. Actually do what the whole audience wants you to do. Pretend that never happened. You know? I had this horrible dream. Which I think that even though that's supposed
to be... Go back to sleep, Lewis. You're having a bad dream.
Yeah, really. I think even though that's one of those things that people say don't do in writing is don't have it all be a dream, I think this is one of those cases that it would be acceptable. It's like, that never happened. It was all a dream. Which also would be fine for The Mummy 3. Okay.
I think you can just pick it up from there and not have anybody notice because, 3 was... 3 was...
Don't try to justify 3. Or 4.
I'm okay. 4 can go out the window. 3...
Where's your beloved Joss? We didn't know. Anyway. I know it's not Josh. I just like saying it that way.
3 was plagued by many problems, but David Fincher did a good job directing it. I'm just going to say that. I think David Fincher's a good director. I thought it was well directed, if the story was horrible, even if. And the person who did Mummy 3 was Rob Cohen.
Rob Cohen, that's it.
Yeah, Rob Cohen, no relation. It's with an H.
Yeah.
And he did Fast and Furious.
Yeah.
Oh no, The Fast and the Furious.
The Fast and the Furious.
The first one.
Not
the first one.
Yeah,
the Fast and the Furious. That naming on those drives me bad.
Fast and Furious.
There's The Fast and the Furious, and then there's Fast and Furious.
You forgot that. Yeah, got that adjective in there, didn't you? The Fast. Anyway.
And then there's Too Fast, Too Furious. And 3 Fast, 3 Furious.
Yeah. And when they replace when you're getting to the point where you're replacing words with numbers or letters with numbers so you can make it all clever. And anyway,
the only time that worked was in Beethoven's Second. But anyway,
yeah, really. Okay, real briefly we would like to talk about some movies that you may have missed, both recent and older, and I just wanted to give a little recommendation this week to one that is near and dear to my heart and possibly to Devin's too. Lunchbox, sorry. Gotta figure out how to do the names. Movies that you may have missed would be Cloak and Dagger. The 80s movies. We were talking about 80s movies before. I had thought a lot about this one. Like going back and forth. You gotta think of different movies that people should see. Now, this isn't the best acted movie in the world, nor is it the worst. But it still has a little something to it. It has Dabney Coleman as like the dad, that creepy kid with the huge eyes from E.T. as the kid. I don't remember his name. I'm not going to bother to look it up because...
Henry Thomas?
Thank you. Henry Thomas. That's it. Probably because he had a kind of plain name. Henry Thomas. I mean, that's 2 first names is his name. Anyway.
Plus he was in Suicide Kings, which was awesome too.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah, no. Which is just weird. See, he's still got the weird Hobbit huge eyes thing going on. He
does still, even at this age. But anyway.
Yeah, it's a weird thing about some child actors. If they look unique and kind of bleary-eyed as kids, they turn into freakishly weird-looking adults. Which I'm sorry to say, that's just how it goes sometimes.
Yeah.
Like, oh, he's got those doe eyes. Oh, he's got those doe eyes, you know?
It's weird seeing an adult with
It's weird seeing an adult with eyes that look like they belong on an elf.
Kind of like Elijah Wood.
Which made him great as a hobbit.
Yes, it made him work as a hobbit.
It makes him work as a hobbit.
Nails it as a hobbit.
Eyes open all the way up to the top of your forehead, though. It's just kind of like, there's something wrong. He's an alien. Anyway, movies you may have missed. I would say Cloak and Dagger. Dabney Coleman, Henry Thomas. Movie about a kid who has an imaginary friend that's very real to him and apparently other people as well in the movie, but follows spies, espionage, a kid sort of retreating into his own fantasy world, due to an alluded death of the mom. The dad's always at work at the base, from what I see, but his dad's sort of to him this quasi-hero, but he has this fictional hero that's also played. His dad does double duty. Dabney Coleman does double duty as the dad and the imaginary spy of Jack Flack, which I still remember all these years later, even when I was like, oh yeah, it's Cloak and Dagger, that's the one with Jack Flack, before I knew Dabney Coleman's real name. It's great, it's touching, it's quirky, and it has moments in it that make, even as an adult today, I'm just like, wow, I still can't believe they did that. You never do that in a PG movie. You should go see it regardless. Mini spoiler here. The kid is involved in, like, he sees things that a kid wouldn't see, and I think in most modern films that are PG. Like, he rides in a trunk with a body for a part of it, and like this kid has like an actual adventure, and it shows that adventures can be scary, dangerous things. Exciting maybe at the time. You're like, oh my gosh, is kid gonna make it out? I don't know how quite to tie it all together other than to say it's just a surprising movie about growing up, moving on from fantasy to reality, and it's not fantastically acted. It could be a TV movie of the week, but a really well done TV movie of the week. And I think I've seen it on DVD for pretty cheap. I would go recommend that as just like as something to watch in the background. It kind of makes you. It's one of those 80s movies. Let's say I'll put the capper on that by saying it's an 80s movie, but it's all the good things about an 80s movie. And it's like, that was okay. I'd watch it again. Still kind of gets me at the end. I don't want to spoil it. Maybe I'll write a spoiler review for the website, but anyway.
Yeah, well, yes, and I think I've seen that movie, well, a lot of times. Let's put it that way. When I was a kid, one of my favorite movies, and I've seen the ending twice. I always shut it off before the end. Like I never could make it. I saw the ending once, and I think I watched it once after that. Yeah, and I always shut it off before the end.
It's hard to not say to be spoiler on this. It's hard to be spoiler free on it, but it's worth watching at least once or twice. But as a kid, it was hard seeing because it leaves you like, ah. And as an adult, it leaves you going, oh, this is hard.
There are some movies where it's just.
Even as an adult, you're still saying, wow, okay.
Wow, I can't believe you
I still can't believe that. It's like, I can't believe that still has an emotional impact on me all these years later.
Yeah. But yes, Cloak and Dagger, excellent pick. I like that one.
What's something you'd like to recommend to the...
Well, and I did think about this, and I think it's a little more difficult at being our first one, like trying to come up with which one are you going to do? Which one are you going to cover? Have you seen Casablanca? Have you seen Flashpoint? Have you seen, and there's 100 movies that I could recommend.
Hundreds of movies out there to recommend that people either haven't seen or that may have just missed.
Yeah, that, may have passed you in passing. And I probably wouldn't have picked this movie had it not been for Jester saying that he'd never seen the best movie ever. Because Josie and the Pussycats is the best movie ever.
I was going to say, I almost said 17 again. That's not it. It's Josie and the Pussycats.
Josie and the Pussycats is the best movie ever. And it's, while that is kind of an in-joke about the movie, it is so well done that, really, all of the jokes, from the boy band that sings Backdoor Lover, to, all of the jokes with them, and basically it's Josie and the Pussycats getting their big start and becoming huge, and then finding out that people are putting subliminal messages in the music. And so there's plenty of jokes about the subliminal messages, and there's even a nod to Mommy Dearest in there. Like, you hardly ever get a Mommy Dearest joke, which probably I've seen. I don't know if anybody else under the age of 60 has seen Mommy Dearest, but there's even a Mommy Dearest joke in there. And so, gotta love it on that level. But there's so many different layers and levels to it that it can play for anybody. I mean, you could watch it with your kids, or you could, watch it with your grandparents. Everybody would love that movie. It is so perfectly put together and just lovely and so much fun to watch. And so definitely, and what I will say also is that for those of you podcast listeners that have seen Josie and the Pussycats, because it's the best movie ever, watch the commentary, because the commentary is fabulous and gives you a lot of insight and behind the scenes stuff. And although basically because of the whole movie's about subliminal advertising, there's advertising throughout the movie, it turns out that nobody paid for any product placement in the entire movie. Even though the entire movie is product placement, nobody paid for any of that product placement. They actually just had to get permission to use the people's logos. So there is no actual product placement in the movie. They got permission from the various companies, Target and all these other companies.
Like Target, McDonald's. I remember seeing bits and pieces because I worked in theater at the time, and you had to do checks and all that. But yeah,
but it's basically wall to wall product placement, but nobody actually paid to have their products in the show. They actually got permission to put it in there, and surprisingly, it's really expensive to use a line from a song, because you actually have to pay for the song, even if you just have somebody in the show use a line from the song.
Well, that's your creative genius. You want to get credit and money and all sorts of nice little kickbacks anytime somebody uses it. Not that that's a bad thing, just that you'd be surprised. I mean, but then again, I still, even though it's been years since I've known the fact, and everybody knows the fact, that Happy Birthday is a trademarked song.
Yeah.
It's just still kind of weird.
It's the birthday song.
It's the birthday song. Thank you very much. All rights, yes. All rights are theirs of the owners.
So, watch Josie and the Pussycats. It's the best movie ever.
Yeah, I'll give it a shot. And I don't expect you to rewatch Cloak and Dagger unless you want to drown in a pile of your own tears. Anyway.
I'll definitely watch it again and shut it off 10 minutes before it's over.
Yeah. Hey, it's worth watching all the way through.
It is. It definitely is. And really, I think that the whole movie, as a whole, it works really well, and I quite enjoyed that. It's one of my favorite movies growing up. That and Savannah Smiles. I don't know why I'm attracted to movies with those.
The
saddest endings.
By the way, before we leave, we're going to take your heart with us.
Yes.
Wait, no, I need that.
Wait, why would you do that? Why would you do that?
I know, that's just another one of those. That's a Canadian movie, I believe.
I got that for Dara and Danae to watch. I don't know if they ever saw it. Although I think if they ever had, they'd probably come back and smack me.
Here, watch this. Why? Because I want you to cry.
Yeah. It's so much fun right up to the end.
Right up to the end. And that's, I think, another hallmark of 80s movies.
Yeah.
It's right up to the end. You have this is good, happy, fuzzy feelings. They're it's an adventure, and hold on. I'm going to go out and buy some Kleenex. Clears out store. Alrighty. So
it's like if the Goondocks found out that the money wasn't real.
Yeah. It's all costume jewelry. All the gold coins have been replaced years ago, where they were only worth $5 a piece.
We're still going to lose our house. Okay.
Yeah. Fade to black. Alrighty, gonna wrap up this podcast with a little lunchbox. What have we learned, Charlie Brown? Some movie that you think that you've learned something from, can take away, some little life lesson.
Well, your life lesson this week, and I think this is perfectly apropos, because this is our first adventure, our first actual regular podcast. So I think that the perfect quote is, "And the flowers are still standing."
Okay. I was going to say, it's like, I swear to God, if you could quote Tom Hanks. Okay, that works.
Which I think is, I think that speaks to a lot of our life, is that we do a lot of self-talk. And no matter what job you're in, you have that moment of, oh man, I have to do this part of my job again. And you say, oh wow, it's this happening again. And especially, I think that you tend to do that when you're first starting something. Like when you first try something out. You remember Bill Murray says, before he pulls, he says, I always wanted to try this. Rips the tablecloth out, and the flowers are still standing. Never mind the plates that fell all over the floor. You know, it's enjoy that part of the triumph. Rather than doing the negative self-talk of this part didn't work out, that part didn't work out. Oh, look, the fork is all the way over there, as we so often tend to do. We do that negative self-talk and we kind of find the parts that we did wrong. Revel in that little bit that you did right. You know, like, remember that maybe sometimes you don't get it all right on the first shot. This is your first chance at something. It's your first try at something. You're not sure exactly how to do it. Revel in the fact that the flowers are still standing.
There we go. The little triumphs, the little things that carry you, and the little victories, they're always worth celebrating. Right?
Absolutely.
He nods. Okay, and absolutely. Sorry, it's like, it's a podcast, don't nod. Okay. Rattle. Alrighty, well, for Lunchbox, I'm Jessica. Thanks for listening to One More Rewrite Podcast, and we will see you next time.